Now, when our Lord says, if you do not renounce all your possessions, you cannot follow me, he is primarily speaking of our attachment to them, to abandon our claim, right, or possession in our hands of these things. By first recognizing they are all a gift from God to grow in holiness, and secondly, by not being attached to it or allowing our heart to be in the grip of these things, where you're always willing to depart from them because you are living for God alone and to do good to glorify Him. Not to have things, but it is okay to have things. In the church's tradition, there was always the understanding of the fact that it is more humane that people can own their own property and even enjoy things that they would like in their life outside of the monasteries and religious life. In fact, Thomas Aquinas makes a key claim about why private property is important. He says, every man is more careful to take care of what is for himself alone than that which is in common to many or all, since each one will avoid the labor and leave to another that which concerns the community. This is a common experience in our world where there's no ownership in communities. Everything gets destroyed, everything begins to crumble. As is seen everywhere, the experiment of communism is put into practice, where people try to equalize a society of unequals. The problem is people are equal in dignity, but not equal in virtue or vice. For sometimes riches are acquired by one's prudence with money, virtue, and hard work, and one's poverty is the cause of one's spending money recklessly, their vices and slothfulness. This is not always the case, of course. Sometimes it's simply economic circumstances surrounding somebody. But it is the case sometimes. And even when it is the case, it should not stop Christian charity for others, because God lavishes His goodness both on the just and the unjust. But it shows us in society we cannot just say everybody is equal and take what one has earned and give it to someone else. In fact, this is part and parcel of the definition of something that is unjust. St. Paul mentions, when it comes to charity, I do not mean that others should be eased and you burdened, but that as a matter of equality, your abundance at the present time should supply their want. He's speaking of the excess that people have, and our duty to aid the poor, and of course the church itself, where we worship God. In Canon 222 of the Code of Canon Law regarding the church, it states, the Christian faithful are obliged to assist with the needs of the church, so that the church has what is necessary for divine worship, for the works of the apostolate and charity, and for the decent support of ministries to bring Christ to the world. We ought to spend our money in accordance with the two greatest commandments. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind, which is the greatest and the first commandment. This is why the church is the most beautiful thing, or should be. And secondly, obviously, your neighbor as yourself, where we have a deep concern for those in poverty.